too often people don't realize the importance of individual and organizational resources when they are involved in some kind of endeavor or some kind of a project or some kind of initiative. It's particularly true for businesses. You know, entrepreneurship is an important thing, and there are a lot of individuals who are in business and who want to go into business, but oftentimes they are struggling, and some struggling, and sometimes they are not. Well, one important thing that's often overlooked is that there's help out there. There are organizations and individuals who are willing and positioned to help businesses and to help individuals in almost every kind of problem or every kind of initiative that you want to have. Well, I'm so happy to be able to bring an organization and an individual who can help with businesses, particularly African American businesses. And that organization is the Georgia Minority Chamber of Commerce. And that individual is Mr. Zernial Bogan. I hope I pronounced that correctly, Zernial.
Yes, you have, Alex, indeed.
Okay, okay. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well in yourself.
I'm outstanding.
Great.
Well, as I said, Zernial is the founder, the creator, and the developer and the conceptualizer of Georgia Minority Chamber of Commerce, which I think is a very needed and worthwhile endeavor as it relates to being a resource for businesses, particularly African American businesses, because we need all the help that we can get. And then there's help out there. And I think this is important because this organization is ready, willing, and able to assist in a lot of areas as it relates to development and the advancement of business. But first of all, take your time and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Alex, first of all, thank you very much for having me on and letting me be able to articulate some of the things that the GMCC, the Georgia Minority Chamber of Commerce, has in store for the community. As I said before, we always want to be able to help and educate. I am Zernial in Bogen. I'm a minister also, and I've been in the ministry for almost over 20 years. I was also the founder and the curator, as you might say, and the producer of the Champaign County Black Chamber of Commerce in Champaign, Illinois. That was over for 12, a little bit more than 12 years. I was its president and CEO. Until I decided to get out of the cold and come to a warmer climate, because it's really cold up there in Illinois. So I decided to sell my snowblower and come down here and buy me a riding mower. I thought it might be a little bit more advantageous to my health. And when you start to get up in age, I think, the cold weather doesn't agree with those who are starting to get in their senior years. I've been called to Washington, D.C. By the President of the United States and received the President's Volunteer Service Award in December of 2011. In the process of me doing volunteership for AmeriCorps and many other projects within the community. I was also sitting on the board of the UCB, which is the Urbana-Champaign Big Broadband Project, a $30 million project for which we actually put infrastructure, 1 gigabit infrastructure into the towns so that those who are underprivileged can gain the access to internet. And that was quite a wonderful thing that we did there. And I'm always ready to talk about how that transpired. In doing these things, I noticed that our brothers and sisters didn't have the foundational understanding of what it meant to be an entrepreneur. At that point, I didn't have it. But yet I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, a self-sustained person when it comes to doing business. I didn't want to have to work for someone else. Although in the relationship of working, you find that no matter what you're doing, you're always going to be working for someone else because when you are trying to make money, you're trying to make money for someone else to pay the bills. And that is in conjunction to something as a realization that we all have to face. Unless you just have it that you can pull out hundreds here and there and throw them around, but most of us can't do that. So, in myself in particular, I came to the realization that I had to do something from seeing all of my other brothers and sisters suffering with the same thing that I'm suffering with when it comes to the lack of knowledge and the lack of resources, the lack of political power to help me gain those resources, and then the lack of unification of us who are entrepreneurs in our minorities. So it came to my mind that as I was talking to some of the business persons within the community, I said, well, why don't we unify like the regular chamber unifies? I said, the only reason why we can't get into the regular chamber, as they call it, or the chamber of the status quo, is because we are minorities and we can't afford these big giant packages that they apply to us, and we can barely afford to have insurance for our business. And so why don't we get together and do something? And from that, the Champaign County Black Chamber of Commerce came about. The Black Chamber isn't about Black power. It's about those who are blacklisted on the major or the so-called minority, so-called chamber within our communities as we go and we see all of the different chambers for the different states, but they didn't deal with the problems of the minority. As a matter of fact, the minority was pushed aside or got crumbs when it came to the distribution of funds from the EEC, from the Economic Development Commission of the United States. Each state is given these funds from the government. From that position, the state's Economic Development Commission distributes it to different entities within the state. And the cities then usually have an economic development department, which helps distribute it to the businesses in that particular area. Well, that's good and well if it was getting fed to all of the businesses, and that's not what was happening. So I said we have to be able to have some political clout, someone to speak up for us, to be able to say, wait a minute, when you cut that pie, remember that there's a slice in there for me. And when we can do that, then we know that we're getting our piece of the pie. But there wasn't anybody that could speak up for us and make that happen. So in doing so, I did that for 10 to 12 years. And when I decided to come here in 2014, I started working for Five Star Chrysler. And I said, okay, I'm slaving again, working as a mechanic for someone else. And the work that I'm doing, I'm getting far less than 5% of what it's actually costing to have it done. That doesn't compute for me, So I'm like, I got to do something about that. So after 2 years in 2016, I stopped working for them and went to working for myself. I started a transportation business called Blue Transportation, which I take people backwards and forwards from the vicinity to the airport and bring them back on a personal level. And this is something that no other unit can touch because of the prices I had and the way it's operated. But as I continued to look around, even in that venue, I saw that my brothers and sisters still didn't have any unification. And I'm saying, wow, back at that time, I joined a Macedonia Baptist Church. And I met a young man whose name was Alex Havisham. I said to Mr. Havisham way back then, I said, Mr. Havisham, I see a problem happening here. And I saw this problem develop once before. And we need to start a chamber. What can I do? And at that time, you weren't in a position to really give me the information that I needed. But I let you know, I said, Mr. Havisham, sooner or later here, I got to start a chamber because we cannot function like this. And as things developed, especially in 2020, when we saw how the political air took precedent over this election, and then when we go back and we see what happened to Stacey Abrams, and we see how she was defeated because of a non-functioning Black force of non-unification. And you got to call it what it is, because had she had the political power behind her from the Black community workforce, she wouldn't have had to worry about anything else, because just like she got out and made sure that everybody was going to the vote, The same thing we had to do with the Black businesses. I was happy to become part of Warnock's campaign, and also with Black Voters Matter here in the area, because it gave us an opportunity to show that when we come together as a business community, we can move things. We have the political clout to be able to get the resources we need. We have the political clout to get the education we need. We have the political clout to get the funding we need. And above all, we have the political clout to, when we sign those documents, we have someone that could back us up. We don't have that, or we didn't have that. But now the Georgia Minority Chamber of Commerce is geared to look at that. When we were talking about Atlanta being part of that, we came to see that, as well known as Atlanta is with the Black businesses, they didn't stretch out to the rest of the community, which is the rest of the state. It was more confined in Atlanta, but that shouldn't be. We need to have a unified hub, just like there's a Georgia Chamber of Commerce. Well, this is the Georgia Minority Chamber of Commerce, a unified hub where all the minority chambers can have a connection. We're not trying to overtake anyone. We're not trying to displace anyone. We're not trying to take anything from anyone. We're trying to unite so that that time comes about when the funds are being distributed. We can say, listen, there's this surprise we're supposed to get, and we demand to have it.
That's outstanding, and I really appreciate, you're giving us the background for that. So, lo and behold, the chamber has been established.
Yes,
And
sir.
talk a little bit about the establishment and the individuals that have supported you. I know you've got the Verge and some other people, you know, who support you, and talk about the membership, and also talk about some of the initiatives. I know that you have successfully supported a couple of grand openings, maybe more than that. And so just talk about those specific activities that in which the GMCC is involved.
Well, the GMCC, when it first became alive, or an actual entity, was in October. I was I was at church, and my pastor, who is my present pastor, Pastor West, Christopher West, and I know you know him, and he was at a restaurant, and he called me from the restaurant, and it happened to be his birthday, and he says, Reverend Bogan, I just called to say hello and thank you very much for the well wishes for my birthday, and he said, I'm here having a celebration with my wife. I said, oh, where are you guys celebrating at? He says, at the pond. I says, the pond? Well, I had never heard of that. There's quite a few places that I haven't heard of from being new. I says, well, what is that about? Is it somewhere we can actually come and have some fun with you? He says, sure. He says, let me send you some photographs of it. So he took pictures of it and he sent them to me. From that time on, I said, okay, I'm going to make it a point to go over there to this restaurant to see just what it's about. Well, in the endeavors of doing that, the pastor informed me that it was owned by a Black man. And I said, really? I said, I need to come talk with him because we need to really get this chamber going. And I need those persons who are Black owners in business to start stepping up. When I went over there, the man's name was Joe Wilburn, who happens to be former Air Force, scary Air Force, person as I am. And I said, that's great. Come to find out, his wife is also part of that ownership that helps it grow. And I got to know Mr. Wilborn, and he became really our first business that was initiated into the program. And Mr. Wilborn did everything he could to actually facilitate hosting us, having our meetings, to set up the chamber. We actually had our first initial meetings right there, and he would actually entertain us. He took care of everything. And you couldn't find a more gracious host to do that. And we're so grateful for him, because to be able to go somewhere and say, we're starting a business, we need meeting room so we can meet and formulate this business and get a board together and do these things, and be able to sit and have, at the same time, have food to be able to facilitate all these things also, was really a great thing for him to say, sure, come on, my restaurant is open to you. And he became a member. Well, once we got it started and started going, I started looking around to some of the other businesses in the area, some of the barbershops, because we have quite a few black barbershops. And the barbershops, for those who don't know, is usually the ebony magazine of any community when it comes to the black barbershop and the black hair salon. Those areas you can find out about anything you want to find out about when you go to those areas. They're like, I would say, the Jet magazine. you know, go to the black salons and the black barbershops, and you'll find out what you want to know. So we did exactly that. And as I continued to search for those things that was pertaining to the business, I was asking them, well, what do you guys do? How do you get together? When do you business people meet? And no one had any idea what I was trying to say. So I talked to a Mr. Moss in the mall, in Galleria Mall, who has the scent shop there in Galleria Mall. And he was explaining to me that, yeah, there's been a few that has done trying to do so, but they haven't really had any success and nothing was really coming about it. And I says, well, they can't give up. When I heard that, it just gave me more incentive to want to continue to track and getting this done. It's not easy. I've done it before, and I know that it's not easy, but the Lord just said, listen, I took you out of the cold weather, but it didn't mean I took you out of the heat. so when I come down here, I say, that's a really funny joke, Lord. You know? So I'm down here in Georgia, and I said, yeah, it is hot down here, more ways than one. And so I decided, okay, let's talk with some other businesses. I got together with a businessman whom you know, Carlos Bird, and his wife, who are part of Legal Shield. And when I talked with them, I invited them to my home, and we had been getting to know each other for a while. And I said, hey, I need some officers because I need to start this chamber up. And I need a vice president, I need a secretary, and I need a treasurer. I need those four main offices because I can't even begin to say that this is the business unless I have those four main officers. And guess what? They were really, really ready to get into that because they were looking for the same thing. Someplace that was actually trying to unify the Black businesses. It's a good opportunity for those persons who are in Legal Shield like yourself. And it's also a good opportunity for us to be able to start to grow. We did that. We went to Joe's place. We formulated a board meeting. We took votes on who was going to be the president, vice president, secretary, and the treasurer, and we continue to grow. Now we have a body of board members of 10, and our body can be 12. So we're still looking for a good board member. Uh, but nevertheless, as we continue to see, we already had that discussion. But you see, I'm certain, you know, when you see someone who is so enthralled with being able to help his own people, it's one of the mainstay attributes, one of the characteristics that we look for in people, because this is not a timid organization. It has to be an action organization. And when we take action to help our people, as we all know, sometimes we run into walls that are some that cover you so heavily that you're afraid to even look at it, let alone try to drive towards it. But that's what our goal is to show our people that we have to unify. If we want to be able to say, this person should be in office and this person shouldn't, and we know that we have the amount of political power when we get together to do that, we can't wait till it's voting time. We have to start doing it now so that when it comes to voting time, it's already in place. And this is something that we have to recognize and we have to actually take into our hands and hold on to, and then use that as a DAT. And I really mean that. Use that as a DAT, because now we can hit the ball out the park and hit those home runs that we've been longing for so long, because we have not only the DAT, but we have those people behind us, our team members that are backing us up.
So talk a little bit about your current members, and then talk a little bit about those activities in which you have been involved up to this point. Again, congratulations. You know, you are a young organization, and I've read and heard and have seen many of the things that you're doing. I want to congratulate you. So, talk a little bit about the function and the projects and the activities up to this point of the organization?
We're growing substantially. We're growing to a point now that we have a total of, since we started and actually got online, I think we have a total of 43 members.
Wow.
Right, and that's pretty good. So we're helping everybody that we can. Membership, we try to utilize in a way that is easy for the member to join, so that the membership cost isn't just placed on you at one time. It can be paid in increments. It's not a high membership that whereas you cannot afford it, but at the same time, not to be connected to the chamber is one of those situations where you cannot afford to be a non-member. We had our first open house ceremony was with Miss Hauser in with her unit, and we did this with Renewed Beauty and Spa on Houston Lake Road and Warner Robins, and it was such a wonderful thing that happened. I was very excited because her partner, who is our sister, come to find out, she's in Africa. And so to have them two together in that manner, of her taking care of the business while her other partner is in Tanzania, I believe Africa, that to me was very exciting in itself. So we're continuing to do these things. We have another open house coming up pretty quick here with someone you already know. And so Tanika, you're right, she's going to have one. And we have an open house that is getting ready to happen with Mr. Wilborn as soon as the pandemic allows more interaction of persons. He's been waiting for that himself. The membership in numbers we're hoping to have grow the more we open up with our website, which we just launched. And we have a Facebook page also. We met with Mr. Larry Curtis, who is the city councilman, one of the city councilmen for Warner Robins. And Mr. Curtis, I have to talk about Mr. Curtis because he was so beneficial in us having a home, a headquarters for the chamber. And he had actually invited us to become part of their unit at the Curtis Center at 2050 Watson Boulevard. So we have a mailing address that we can actually say the chamber has a stationary headquarters. And, that's God sent because Mr. Curtis has been so gracious to us to be able to do that. And I've also come to find out that it's now also one of the offices of the NAACP. So to have these units in conjunction, and then him being honored as the vice president, I believe, of the 100 Men Foundation, he's part of that. This is the type of clout that we need to come together, to be able to move things, to be able to show our community that all we have to do is put our heads together. We have no problem coming together when we have a barbecue. You tell someone we're going to have a barbecue, come on over and get yourself a piece of rib, and they're ready to do so. If we have no problem doing that, we should have no problem saying, listen, come on over here, join with us so that we can get this monies and resources that we're supposed to have. They shouldn't have any problem doing so. We're not asking them to give up anything that they wouldn't already have. We're asking them to gain those things which are rightfully theirs. Big difference. So this is what the chamber is all about. It's about bringing resources. It's about bringing education. It's about bringing prosperity. It's about bringing connections. It's about bringing understanding about who you are, how you are, when you are, and what to do about those situations. It's about knowing the strength of your own value.
Geographically, are there any, what's your reach or your outreach as it relates to the geography? And also talk about what qualifies one or what because oftentimes people think that certain things are not for them. So who can join and where do they need to live to join?
The Georgia Minority Chamber of Commerce is about minorities. And you're not getting the things that you're supposed to be. Guess what you are? You are a minority. And that power in itself brings us together. Just because they may not have a little different thinking doesn't mean that they're not a minority. They're having just as much trouble as we are, especially our Hispanic brothers and sisters. We got to understand that, listen, if we don't pull together, we're going to be pulled apart. And I'd rather team with a person that's going to help me grow than to team with someone that's just going to sit by and watch me flutter away when they got the water or they got the fertilizer to help me grow. The outreach is just that, Georgia. That's why we named it the first time that we come to it, Georgia minority, the whole state.
Okay, that's outstanding. We'll talk a little bit about the mechanics and the steps to become a part of the chamber and where one can ascertain more information about it.
You can always go to the Georgia Minority Chamber of Commerce website, which is the gmcchamber.com. And you can find us there and get more information about how to join, what are the costs for you to join, the type of levels that we have to be able to become a member, and who can become a member and how to become a member. We want the community to see that we're giving debates and we're going to have different venues of networking so that they can come in free of charge to be able to talk with people, learn how to do business plans, learn how to do the PPP, learn how to do the PPP forgiveness, those types of things that are so vitally important.
Right. Let me congratulate you again and thank you. And then let me pledge my support for what you're doing and in a manner that I can assist. And I really appreciate what you're doing. Should they go to the website if they wanted to make a phone call? Is there a phone number that they can use to
Yes.
call? Okay.
Yes, you can call me directly, 217-417-2035, 217-417-2035, or you can go to the GMCC Facebook page, which is the GM Georgia Minority Chamber of Commerce on our Facebook page, or you can go to the website, which is the GMCC Chamber. That's GMCCChamber.com.
This is a call to action. I'm your host, Alex Habersham, having interviewed Mr. Zernial Bogen, who's the founder and CEO, facilitator, and driver of the newly found and very effective Georgia Minority Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Alex.
We really appreciate it. This is a call to action. I'm your host, Alex Habersham. Have a great day.
Get ready, Central Georgia.
This is Alex Habersham, publisher of the Macon Middle Georgia Black Pages. I'm happy to inform the community, particularly business owners, that we're working on a new edition of the Macon Middle Georgia Black Pages and Resource Guide.
Coming soon.
So call today. You need to be a part of this.
Your resource guide to identify Black-owned businesses throughout Central Georgia.